शायद। हाँ आगे आगे।
السلام علیکم.
وعلیکم السلام ورحمۃ اللہ وبرکاتہ.
ماشاء اللہ ماشاء اللہ.
صادق صاحب آواز کلیئر ہے؟
ہاں ہاں آواز تو کلیئر ہے. میری آواز کلیئر ہے؟
جی بالکل آواز کلیئر ہے. اور ویڈیو میں میرا یہ سجیشن ہے کہ تھوڑا سا برائٹنس کم کیجئے. آس پاس کا برائٹنس شاید بہت زیادہ ہے
میرے ویڈیو میں.
جی ویڈیو میں لائٹ بہت زیادہ ہے.
ٹھیک ہے ٹھیک ہے.
Hello, good evening, Justice Chandra Kumar Garu. You are welcome to this panel. I can see you. Sir, how are you?
Fine, fine.
Okay, doing good with your health?
Of course.
Wonderful. So we have good number of people on the seminar. And still we have 4 minutes time, so we are waiting for a couple of people to join, and two of our guests are yet to join, so let's give them a few more minutes. 2 more minutes please.
Okay, fine. ఇప్పుడు
Madam Sarah Matthews has also joined. Madam, good evening. Could you switch on your video? Would be great as well.
Good evening.
We have a few other guests yet to join, and we have Mr. Justice Chandra Kumar Garu and Sadiq Ahmed on board, and we are waiting for Mr. Professor Muhammad Salim. So let's give 2 more minutes and we'll take a start.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening, Professor Salim Sahab.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Thanks sir, thanks for joining. Hope you are doing good with your health.
Yeah, I had my cataract surgery 3-4 days back. That's why I am wearing dark glasses. So
Okay.
I think you will pardon me for this.
That should not be an issue. So
Yeah.
I think meeting
I have
this cataract operation, I don't think this meeting is not kind of disturbing you. You are comfortable with this, right?
No, I have taken permission from my doctor for today's meeting.
Okay, wonderful.
Inshallah. So how many people have joined till yeah?
So we have 21 participants so far. A few more are yet to join.
Yeah.
Okay, so just let's wait for a minute or so.
Yeah, sure. We still have 1 minute left.
1 minute, yes.
So good evening to our panelists today, Justice Chandrakumar ji and Sister Sarah Matthew.
Sarah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sorry, I had cataract surgery, so I
Okay, so I think as we can see, the participant numbers are growing gradually, and I think that would continue, and people would continue to join as we go forward. So I better take a start as we scheduled to start at 6 p.m. Okay, welcome aboard, gentlemen. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. It's nice and a great evening to see you all on a single panel from different corners of India, but on a single platform, Forum for Democracy and Communal Amity. Welcome you all aboard. We are going to take a quick start with the introduction of today's session. Today's session on this platform of FDCA Telangana has organized to understand the sectarianism and the hate crimes being induced through sectarianism. So our topic today, sectarianism inducing hate crimes, is something which is familiar to us and which we have been hearing it out day in, day out on different platforms, through different perspectives at different segments of the society. So to talk upon this critical topic where it is impacting the social fabric of the country, we have invited our honorable guests, Mr. Justice Chandrakumar. Hello, somebody talking. If can all the participants please, except who is talking, be on mute, please? Okay, let me otherwise put on mute. Give me a second, please. Okay, so we have on board Justice Chandrakumar Garu from Hyderabad, and we have Professor Engineer Salim. He is the National General Secretary for Forum for Democracy and Communal Amity. And on board we have Madam Sarah Matthews. She is a social activist based out of Hyderabad. As well, we have Mr. Sadiq Ahmed. He is basically the General Secretary for Forum for Democracy and Communal Amity, Telangana. So let me take a start with one of our honorable guests to put forward his views. Let me start with Mr. Sadiq Ahmed, so that we can understand his perspective, his point of view, and his discourse in terms of sectarianism inducing hate crimes. Mr. Sadiq Ahmed, please help us in putting forward your discourse and giving us an understanding and how it impacts the community at large, please.
Thank you, Mr. Ijaz. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very fortunate to speak at this occasion where intellectuals from across the country are assembled here. As how our convener have said that today's topic is sectarianism inducing hate crimes. If I translate it into Telugu, as some of our audience are Telugu speaking, it can be Matonmada Falitam Dveshapurita Neram. సో నేడు మనం నిర్వహించుకుంటున్న ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి అంశం మతోన్మాద ఫలితం ద్వేషపూరిత నేరం. ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి అధ్యక్షత వహిస్తున్నారు గౌరవనీయులు జస్టిస్ చంద్రకుమార్ గారు, స్టేట్ ప్రెసిడెంట్ ఫోరం ఫర్ డెమోక్రసీ అండ్ కమ్యూనల్ యూనిటీ తెలంగాణ స్టేట్. అదేవిధంగా దేశ క్యాపిటల్ సిటీ నుండి గౌరవనీయులు మొహమ్మద్ సలీం ఇంజనీర్ గారు, అసోసియేట్ ప్రొఫెసర్ నేషనల్ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ ఆఫ్ టెక్నాలజీ జైపూర్, అదేవిధంగా నేషనల్ జనరల్ సెక్రటరీ FDCA కూడాను. వీరితో పాటు హైదరాబాద్ నగరంలో సోషల్ యాక్టివిస్ట్ గా పనిచేస్తున్న సిస్టర్ సారా మాథ్యూస్ గారు, ఇంకా ఈ కార్యక్రమాన్ని కోఆర్డినేట్ చేస్తున్న FDCA రాష్ట్ర కార్యదర్శి మిత్రులు ఏజాజ్ గారు, అదేవిధంగా సమయానికే హాజరై తమ యొక్క ఆసక్తిని చూపుతున్న ఆడియన్స్ కు ప్రప్రథమంగా మీ అందరికీ కృతజ్ఞత అభినందనలు తెలియజేసుకుంటూ, मैं इस समय जो तेलुगु में बात कर रहा हूँ, बहुत लोगों के लिए डिस्कम्फर्ट फील हो रहा होगा, लेकिन चूंकि ऑडियंस तेलुगु स्पीकिंग है तो मैं चाहूंगा कि तेलुगु स्पीकिंग के जरिए आपको इंटरेक्ट कर सकूं. सेक्टेरियनिज्म क्या है? ये सेक्टेरियनिज्म, इसी को हम तेलुगु में मतोन्मादम कहते हैं, फिरका परस्ती कहते हैं. मतोन्मादం అంటేనే విభజన రాజకీయాలు అని చెప్పొచ్చు మనం, లేక మెజారిటేరియన్ పాలసీస్ ఏదైతే ఈ రోజు కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వం అఫీషియల్ గా అడాప్ట్ చేస్తా ఉందో దాని సంకేతంగా ఫలితంగా as a result of the policies being implemented by central government since 2014, NDA యొక్క ఫస్ట్ టర్మ్ నుండి మొదలుపెట్టినట్లయితే 2019లో సెకండ్ టర్మ్ ఆఫ్ NDA's గవర్నమెంట్ ని చూసినట్లయితే ఆ సెక్టేరియనిజం పాలసీస్ విపరీతంగా పెరిగిపోయిన పరిస్థితి మనకు కనిపిస్తా ఉంది. సెక్టేరియనిజం ఎక్కడైతే పెరిగిపోతా ఉంటుందో, మతోన్మాదం ఎక్కడైతే పెరుగుతుంటుందో అక్కడ సహజంగా శాంతి భస్మం అయిపోతుంది. అక్కడ ప్రజల మధ్య ప్రేమ, అనురాగాలు, ఆప్యాయతలు సమసిపోతాయి, కనుమరుగైపోతాయి. సోదర భావం, ఒకరి పట్ల ఒకరికి ప్రేమ, ఆప్యాయతలు అనేవి కంటికి కనిపించకుండా పోయే పరిస్థితి ఉంటుంది. దానికి అనుగుణంగా మన దేశం ఏదైతే యూనిటీ అండ్ డైవర్సిటీ అనే ప్రిన్సిపల్స్ ఆధారంగా మన కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ ఏదైతే నిర్మించబడదో ఆ కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ నే మనం మరి తుంగలో తొక్కగలిగే పరిస్థితి కూడా దాపరిస్తుంది ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ మతోన్మాద విలువలతో కూడిన రాజకీయాలు చేసినా లేక ప్రభుత్వాన్ని నడిపినా ఈ విధమైన పరిస్థితి తలెత్తే ఆస్కారం ఉందని ఎన్నో యూనివర్సిటీస్, యునైటెడ్ నేషన్స్ ఆఫ్ ఆర్గనైజేషన్ కూడా ఎన్నో సందర్భాల్లో చెప్పిన పరిస్థితి మనకు తెలుస్తా ఉంది. ఇంటెలెక్చువల్స్ ఎవరైతే సహజంగా డివిజివ్ పొలిటిక్స్ ఎవరైతే చేయదలుచుకుంటున్నారో, పోలరైజేషన్ పాలిటిక్స్ ఎవరైతే చేయదలుచుకుంటున్నారో తప్పనిసరిగా వాళ్ళు దేశాన్ని భ్రష్టు పట్టిస్తారు అనే విషయాన్ని కూడా స్పష్టంగా చెప్తున్న పరిస్థితి. ఎక్కడైతే మెజారిటేరియన్ పాలసీస్ కానీ లేక పోలరైజ్డ్ పాలిటిక్స్ కానీ లేక నేరపూరితమైన భావజాలంతో ఎక్కడైతే పని జరుగుతూ ఉంటుందో తప్పనిసరిగా అక్కడ దేశం అనేది భ్రష్టు పట్టిపోయే ప్రమాదం ఉంది. దానికి సంకేతాలు కూడా కనిపించడమే కాకుండా స్పష్టమైన ఆధారాలు కూడా ఇవాళ మనం భారతదేశ వ్యాప్తంగా మనం చూసుకోగలుగుతున్నాం. ముఖ్యంగా భారతదేశ విషయానికి వచ్చినట్లయితే అబ్రాహమిక్ ఫెయిత్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, ముఖ్యంగా వాటిలో ఇస్లాం అండ్ క్రిస్టియానిటీ, ఈ రెండు మనవి కావు. మరి భారతదేశం కేవలం హిందూ ధర్మాన్ని ఆరాధించే లేక ఆచరించే వాళ్ళది. అదేవిధంగా సిక్కులు, బౌద్ధులు, జైనులు కొంతమేర ఇక్కడి వారిగానే పరిగణించడానికి మేము సిద్ధంగా ఉన్నాం. ఇన్ గ్రూప్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, అంటే దేశంలో ఉన్న గ్రూప్స్ ని ఇన్ గ్రూప్స్ గా పిలవడం, అబ్రాహమిక్ ఫెయిత్స్ కలిగిన వాళ్ళు బయటి వాళ్ళుగా చూపడం, తద్వారా ఒక స్పెసిఫిక్ గ్యాప్ క్రియేట్ చేసే ప్రయత్నం చేయడం ఇవాళ దేశవ్యాప్తంగా మనం చూస్తా ఉన్నాం. ఈ గ్యాప్ క్రియేషన్ వల్ల జరిగేది ఏంటండి? ప్రజల మధ్యలో దూరాలు పెరుగుతాయి, ఒకరి పట్ల ఒకరికి ద్వేషం పెరుగుతుంది, ఒకరంటే మరొకరికి అసూయ పెరుగుతుంది, ఒకరికి మరొకరు సహాయ సహకారాలు అందజేసుకోవడానికి ఎంత మాత్రం సిద్ధపడరు. సరికదా ఒక సమాజంలో నివసించడానికి కూడా చాలా ఇబ్బందికరమైన పరిస్థితులు ఎదుర్కొంటారు. కాబట్టి ఇక్కడ ఏదైతే విషయం పబ్లిక్ లో తీసుకెళ్లే ప్రయత్నం చేస్తా ఉందో అది ఏంటి అంటే, ఈ అబ్రాహమిక్ ఫెయిత్స్ వాళ్ళు దే ఆర్ వెరీ డేంజరస్, దే ఆర్ రిగ్రెసివ్, దే ఆర్ ప్రిమిటివ్. ముఖ్యంగా క్రిస్టియానిటీ విషయానికి వస్తే ప్రోసిలిటైజర్స్ అనే విషయాన్ని కూడా స్పష్టంగా ప్రభుత్వం అనండి లేక ఆ భావజాలం కలిగిన వాళ్ళు ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో పబ్లిక్ లో తీసుకొచ్చే ప్రయత్నం చేస్తా ఉన్నారు. ఇలాంటి సందర్భాల్లో మరి వారు తమకు తాముగా సుపీరియర్స్ గా, టాలరెన్స్ గా, చాలా కంపాషనేట్ గా తమకు తాము ఇంట్రొడ్యూస్ చేస్తున్న పరిస్థితి మనం చూస్తా ఉన్నాం. ప్రియమైన సోదరులారా, 2019 సంవత్సరం తర్వాత భారతదేశాన్ని అదేవిధంగా ఇక్కడ ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేస్తున్న పాలసీస్ ని ఒకవేళ మనం చూసినట్లయితే హిందూ నేషనలిస్ట్ పాలసీస్ ని ఇంప్లిమెంట్ చేస్తా ఉన్నారు. అదే కమ్యూనల్ ఇంటాలరెంట్ పాలసీస్, మెజారిటేరియన్ పాలసీస్ ని తీసుకొచ్చే ప్రయత్నం చేస్తా ఉన్నారు. మచ్చుకి ఉదాహరణకు మనం చూసుకున్నట్లయితే అబ్రోగేషన్ ఆఫ్ 370 కాశ్మీర్ ఆర్టికల్ ఏదైతే ఉందో దాన్ని మనం చూస్తాం. ఆర్టికల్ 370 అది అబ్రోగేట్ ఏదైతే చేశారో, రద్దు చేయడం ఏదైతే జరిగిందో, అనంతరం ఆ రాష్ట్రంలో ఏదైతే మిలిటరైజేషన్ ద్వారా, డిటైనింగ్ ఆఫ్ ఆపోజిషన్ లీడర్స్ ద్వారా ఏ విధంగానైతే భయంకరంగా ఆపేయడం జరిగిందో స్పష్టంగా మనకు తెలుస్తుంది. ఒక రాష్ట్రం పట్ల మరి కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వం అవలంబిస్తున్న పాలసీ ఏదైతే ఉందో అది సరి అయింది కాదు అని మనకు తెలవడం కాదు, ప్రపంచవ్యాప్తంగా ఉన్న సంస్థలు కూడా దాన్ని ఖండన చేస్తా ఉన్నాయి. ఉదాహరణకు మనం చూసినట్లయితే యునైటెడ్ స్టేట్స్ కమిషన్ ఫర్ ఇంటర్నేషనల్ హ్యూమన్ రైట్స్ దాన్ని స్పష్టంగా ఖండించడం జరిగింది. ఎందుకు? ఎక్కడైతే హ్యూమన్ రైట్స్ కాలరాయబడతాయో ప్రపంచ వేదికల బాధ్యత కూడా కదా అది. ప్రపంచ వేదికలు కూడా దాన్ని తప్పనిసరిగా తప్పు పట్టాల్సిన అవసరం, అదే విధంగా తప్పు పట్టడం జరిగింది కూడా. సోదరులారా, మరో ఉదాహరణ మనం తీసుకున్నట్లయితే ఎన్ఆర్సీ తీసుకురావడం, నేషనల్ రిజిస్టర్ ఫర్ సిటిజన్స్, ముఖ్యంగా అస్సాం రాష్ట్ర బ్యాక్గ్రౌండ్ లో తీసుకొచ్చి దాదాపు ఒక 2 మిలియన్ల మన సిటిజన్స్ ని ఆ సిటిజన్షిప్ నుండి దూరం చేయడానికి తీసుకురాబడిన ఆ ఎన్ఆర్సి అనంతరం సిఐఏలో కలిసి ఒక ప్రమాదమైన ఘంటికగా భారతదేశం మొత్తం దేశవ్యాప్తంగా అది వ్యాపించింది అన్న విషయం గత చరిత్రను చూస్తే, సమీప చరిత్రను చూస్తే మనకు స్పష్టంగా తెలుస్తుంది. సిఐఏ, సిటిజన్షిప్ అమెండ్మెంట్ యాక్ట్, వాస్తవానికి ఇక్కడ ఉన్న అంటే భారతదేశంలో నివసిస్తున్న ఒక 5 మతాల వారిని, హిందువులను, క్రైస్తవులను, బుద్ధులను, సిక్కులను, జైనులను పరదేశాల నుండి ఇక్కడికి వచ్చినట్లయితే పర్సిక్యూషన్ కి గురై వాళ్ళకి ఇక్కడ మరి సిటిజన్షిప్ అనేది ఇవ్వడం జరుగుతుంది. అదే విధంగా అవే దేశాల నుండి అదే పర్సిక్యూషన్ కి గురై ఒకవేళ భారతదేశంలో ముస్లిమ్స్ వస్తే దాన్ని ఇక్కడ సహించడం జరగదు, సిటిజన్షిప్ ఇవ్వడం జరగదు. ఒకవేళ వచ్చి ఇక్కడ నివసిస్తున్న వారిని బలవంతంగా బయటికి మరి గెట్టివేయడం జరుగుతుంది అన్న పాలసీ సిఏఏ రూపంలో మనం చూసాం. భారతదేశం తమ నైజానికి అనుగుణంగా, భారతదేశానికి ఒక గొప్ప చరిత్ర ఉంది. ఆ చరిత్ర ఏంటి? సహనం కలిగిన చరిత్ర, టాలరెన్స్ కల్చర్ భారతదేశంలో అంతర్భాగం. అది అన్నాదమ్ముల వలె జీవించే పరిస్థితి ఏదైతే ఉందో అది సహజంగా ఈ దేశానికి వచ్చిన వరం. అది దాన్ని ఎవరెంత మాత్రం ఆపలేరు. దాన్ని ఎవరు తుంచగలిగే పరిస్థితి లేదు అని భారతదేశ ప్రజలందరూ స్పష్టంగా తెలియజేయడం జరిగింది. అదే సిఐఏని మరి దేశవ్యాప్తంగా ఏదైతే ఉద్యమం రావడం జరిగిందో ఆ ఉద్యమానికి కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వం తోక ముడిచిందా అంటే ఎంతో కొంత ముడిచింది అన్న పరిస్థితులు ఉన్నప్పటికీ ఇంకా రైతుల ఫార్మర్ లాస్ ఏ విధంగానైతే టేక్ బ్యాక్ చేసుకోవడం జరిగిందో ఆ విధమైన రిపీల్ అనేది జరగలేదు. కానీ ఇంకా ఆ యాక్ట్ అనేది నేటికి సజీవంగానే ఉంది. ఆ విషయం స్పష్టంగా మనకు తెలుస్తుంది. సెక్టేరియనిజం కి ఒక ఉదాహరణగా చెప్పలేమా? ఎన్ఆర్సిని సెక్టేరియనిజం కి ఒక ఉదాహరణగా చెప్పుకోలేమా? అదే విధంగా ఆర్టికల్ 371 ఏదైతే అబ్రోగేట్ చేశారో దాన్ని సెక్టేరియనిజం కి ఒక మంచి ఉదాహరణగా చెప్పుకోలేమా? అదే విధంగా మరికొంత కాలం తర్వాత బాబ్రీ మస్జిద్ అంశం, సరే, ఒక బీయింగ్ ఏ ముస్లిం ఐఎమ్ నాట్ ప్రిస్క్రైబింగ్ ద వర్డ్ బాబ్రీ మస్జిద్, ఐఎమ్ నాట్ స్పీకింగ్ అబౌట్ బాబ్రీ మస్జిద్. ద జస్టిస్, న్యాయం ఏ విధంగానైతే ఖూనీ చేయబడిందో దాని ప్రస్తావన ఈ సందర్భంలో చేయదలుచుకుంటా ఉన్నాను. సుప్రీంకోర్టు బాబ్రీ మస్జిద్ జడ్జిమెంట్ ఇచ్చే టైంలో ప్రస్తావించిన అంశం ఏంటంటే మెజారిటేరియన్ పీపుల్స్ యొక్క భావాలను దృష్టిలో ఉంచుకొని నేడు మేము ఈ జడ్జిమెంట్ ఇస్తున్నాము అని చెప్పడం ఏ మేరకు సబబు? న్యాయ వ్యవస్థలు దేశాన్ని ఎటువైపు తీసుకెళ్తున్నాయి? న్యాయ వ్యవస్థలే ఒకవేళ మరి బలానికి లేక ఎవరి చేతిలో కర్ర ఉందో వాళ్ళదే నడుస్తుంది అన్న సామెత ఏదైతే ఉందో దాన్ని ఒకవేళ కోర్టులో అవలంబించినట్లయితే న్యాయం ఎక్కడి నుండి మనం ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ చేయగలం? ప్రియమైన సోదరులారా, ఇవన్నీ విషయాలు ఒక్కసారి మనం ఆలోచించుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం. వాస్తవానికి మనం ఇంకో ఉదాహరణ చూసుకున్నట్లయితే ఎగ్జాంపుల్ 5వ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, భారతదేశంలో ఆహారం పేరిట అంటే ఫుడ్ పేరిట, రిలీజియన్ పేరిట, డ్రెస్ కోడ్ పేరిట, రీజియన్ పేరిట, మతం పేరిట ఎన్నో సందర్భాల్లో మాబ్ లించింగ్ జరుగుతూ ఉన్నాయి. మాబ్ లించింగ్ ఎందుకు జరుగుతుంది? ఇది సెక్టేరియనిజం కి ఒక పరాకాష్ట. ఇది మతోన్మాదానికి పరాకాష్టే మాబ్ లించింగ్ రూపంలో మనకు కనిపిస్తూ ఉంటుంది. 2021 జూన్ నెలలో చూసినట్లయితే కొంతమంది తబ్రేజ్ అన్సారీ అనే జార్ఖండ్ వ్యక్తిని హింసిస్తూ ఏ విధంగానైతే కొట్టి చంపడం జరిగిందో దాన్ని యావత్ భారతదేశం చూసింది. అది వీడియో చిత్రీకరించి ఆ చిత్రీకరణ మొత్తం భారతదేశంలో వ్యాపింపజేయడం జరిగింది. ఎందుకు? ఒక ఫోబియాటిక్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ ని క్రియేట్ చేయడానికి, భయపూరిత వాతావరణాన్ని తీసుకురావడానికి, ప్రజల్లో అభద్రతా భావాన్ని తీసుకురావడానికి ఒక రకమైన సంకేతాన్ని, సందేశాన్ని పంపించడం జరిగింది. అదేవిధంగా వాళ్ళు కొడుతూ చెప్పిన మాట ఏంటి? జై శ్రీరామను, జై హనుమానను, లేకపోతే నిన్ను చంపేస్తామనే మాటలు కూడా వీడియోలో చాలా స్పష్టంగా భారతదేశ వాసులందరూ విన్నారు. అంతేకాదు ప్రపంచంలో ఉన్న ప్రజలందరూ విన్నారు. ప్రపంచంలో జస్టిస్ ని ప్రేమించే వేదికలు ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో దాన్ని ఖండించారు. అదేవిధంగా వెస్ట్ బెంగాల్ కి సంబంధించిన 26 సంవత్సరాల మహిళ ట్రైన్ నుండి బయటికి తోసివేయబడింది. కారణం కేవలం ఆమె యొక్క ధర్మం. ముంబైలో ఫైజల్ ఉస్మాన్ ఖాన్ అనే 25 సంవత్సరాల వ్యక్తిని హింసించడం జరిగింది. ఈ విధంగా చెప్పుకుంటా పోతే కోకొల్లలు భారతదేశంలో ఉన్న దళితుల పట్ల కూడా మరి ఈ ప్రభుత్వం వ్యవహరిస్తున్న తీరు వారికి కూడా ఎంతో మరి ఆలోచనకు గురి చేసే పరిస్థితి వాళ్ళ మనం చూస్తా ఉన్నాం. ప్రియమైన సోదరులారా, మరి పరిస్థితి ఇంత భయంకరంగా దాపురించినప్పటికీ మన దేశ ప్రధాని గారు మంచి వక్త కదా, ప్రసంగాలు అద్భుతంగా చేస్తూ ఉంటారు. ఆయన మే 26న ఆయన ఒక ప్రసంగం చేస్తూ, దాని ప్రసంగం అనొద్దు, ఊకదంపుడు ప్రసంగం అన్నారు. ఆయన ఏమన్నారు? మేము ఇండియన్ మైనారిటీస్ ని కాపాడే బాధ్యత మా భుజస్కంధాలపై తీసుకుంటాం. ఎక్కడ తీసుకుంటున్నారు, ఏ రూపంలో తీసుకుంటున్నారు అనేది ఇవాళ ప్రశ్నార్థకంగా మారిన పరిస్థితి మనందరికీ కనిపిస్తా ఉంది. ప్రియమైన సోదరులారా, మరి అంశాన్ని లోతుగా మా యొక్క వక్తలు మరి తెలియజేస్తారు. ఈ సమస్యకు సొల్యూషన్ ఏదో ఒక రూపంలో రావాలి కదా. ఎక్కడో ఏదో ఒక రూపంలో సమస్యకు సొల్యూషన్ రావాలి. ముఖ్యంగా సొల్యూషన్ రావాలి అంటే మన యొక్క మోరల్ టీచింగ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో, సోషల్ టీచింగ్స్ ఏవైతే ఉన్నాయో అవి ప్రజల్లోకి తీసుకురావాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. ఎక్కడైతే ఈ విధమైన నేరాలు, ఘోరాలు జరుగుతాయో అక్కడ తప్పనిసరిగా స్పష్టంగా కలెక్టివ్ కండెమ్నేషన్ ఆఫ్ ది ప్రెజుడిస్ అనేది జరగాలి. అది ఎవరు చేయాలి? సిటిజన్స్ చేయాలి, ఎన్జిఓస్ చేయాలి, సోషల్ యాక్టివిస్ట్ చేయాలి, పొలిటికల్ పార్టీస్ చేయాలి, గవర్నమెంట్ చేయాలి, బ్యూరోక్రాట్స్ చేయాలి, పత్రికా రంగం చేయాలి. సమాజం ఎప్పుడైతే ఈ దురలవాట్లను, దురాభిచారాలను ఎప్పుడైతే నివారించే ప్రయత్నం చేస్తాయో అప్పుడే ఈ దురలవాట్లు, దురాభిచారాలు దూరం అయ్యే అవకాశం ఉంది. రెండవది, మనకున్న ఒక గొప్ప వరం, అదేంటండి? యూనిటీ ఇన్ డైవర్సిటీ. గొప్ప వరం అది. దాన్ని రికగ్నైజ్ అయ్యేటట్లు, దాన్ని రిజిస్టర్ అయ్యేటట్లు మనం మన యొక్క కార్యక్రమాలను డిజైన్ చేస్తూ ఉండాలి. ముఖ్యంగా మీడియా రోల్ను కూడా మనం ప్రస్తావించుకోవాల్సిన అవసరం ఉంది. సోషల్ మీడియా రావటం వల్ల ఎంతో కొంత న్యాయం, ఎంతో కొంత ధర్మం, ఎంతో కొంత వాస్తవాలు ప్రజలకు చేరుతున్నాయేమో కానీ అదర్వైజ్ ఈ సోషల్ మీడియా రాకముందు ప్రభుత్వం ఏదైతే చెప్పదలుచుకుంటా ఉందో దాన్ని మాత్రమే ప్రజలు తెలుసుకోగలుగుతున్నారు, వినగలుగుతున్నారు, చూడగలుగుతున్నారు. వాస్తవాలను చూడగలిగే పరిస్థితుల్లో లేరు. ప్రియమైన సోదరులారా, ఈ కల్చర్ అనేది ఖండం చేయవలసిన అవసరం ఎంతైనా ఉంది. ఇంకా సొల్యూషన్స్ విషయానికి వస్తే మన యొక్క పొలిటికల్ పార్టీస్, గవర్నమెంట్ ఎఫెక్టివ్ ఇంటర్వెన్షన్స్ ని కూడా స్పష్టంగా ప్రజల ముందుకు తీసుకెళ్ళాలి. అదేవిధంగా సాఫ్రనైజ్డ్ ఎజెండా ఏదైతే ఉందో అది ఏ రూపంలో వచ్చినా, టెక్స్ట్ బుక్స్ రూపంలో వచ్చినా, ఎడ్యుకేషనల్ పాలసీ రూపంలో వచ్చినా, లేక ప్రభుత్వం అవలంబించే ప్రెజుడిస్ ఏ రూపంలో ఉన్నప్పటికీ దానికి వ్యతిరేకంగా ప్రజలు మరి ఒక రకమైన మరి వాళ్ళల్లో స్పష్టమైన భావాలు రావాలి. వాళ్ళు ప్రజల ముందుకు తమ యొక్క భావాల్ని వెలుగుచ్చుకోగలగాలి. అప్పుడే భారతదేశ సమాజం ఒక గత చరిత్ర ఏ విధంగానైతే గడిచిందో భవిష్యత్తు కూడా ఆ విధంగా మరి గడవగలిగే అవకాశాలు ఉన్నాయి. లేకపోతే భారతదేశానికి ఒక పెను ప్రమాదం ఉంది. ఇక్కడ ప్రజల మధ్యలో తగాదాలు, కోట్లాటాలు కాదు, యుద్ధాలు జరగగలిగే అవకాశం ఉంది. మరి వాటిని నివారించడం ప్రభుత్వం యొక్క కర్తవ్యం, రాజకీయ పార్టీల యొక్క కర్తవ్యం, మీడియా హౌసెస్ యొక్క కర్తవ్యం, ఎన్జిఓల కర్తవ్యం, సోషల్ యాక్టివిస్టుల కర్తవ్యం. మనందరం కలిసి మరి ఈ మంచి కోసం ప్రయత్నిద్దాం అనే గొప్ప ఉద్దేశంతో నిజానికి ఈ కార్యక్రమం నిర్వహించడం చాలా సంతోషం. FDCA ఫోరం ఫర్ డెమోక్రసీ అండ్ కమ్యూనల్ ఎమిటీ దేశవ్యాప్తంగా మరి డెమోక్రసీ రెస్టోరేషన్ కోసం, కమ్యూనల్ ఎమిటీని తీసుకురావడం కోసం అనునిత్యం ప్రయత్నిస్తున్న సంస్థ. దానికి అధ్యక్షులుగా ఉన్నవారే గౌరవనీయులు జస్టిస్ చంద్రకుమార్ గారు. వారు ఈ కార్యక్రమానికి అధ్యక్షత వహించడం నిజానికి మనం చాలా సంతోషకరమైన విషయం. ఈ కొన్ని విషయాలు తెలుపుతూ నా యొక్క ప్రసంగాన్ని ముగిస్తున్నాను. థ్యాంక్ యూ వెరీ మచ్.
Thank you very much, Sadiq Ahmed Sahab. I think your discourse has been very much divisive in understanding and putting forward the complete arena of dynamics involved in sectarianism, whether it be politically, socially, or economically. As well, you have placed very well and set a stage in terms of how today's contemporary movements have been planning to induce sectarianism and the way the consequences are being seen all around us. That was a wonderful discourse. Thank you very much. Well, to move forward, I would call upon Madam Sarah Matthews to put forward her briefings to the audience so that we can understand further more details and her point of views in terms of sectarianism inducing hate crimes. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Ejaz, Justice Chandrakumar, Professor Salim, Sadiq Bhai, and all the rest of us who are here today. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. We had a very fiery discourse by Sadiq Bhai in his usual style. And he gave us a very wide spectrum of what is happening in our country today. So I'm going to look at it at a micro level, because there's some interesting things in this. I'll start with a quote by Mahatma Gandhi, which is used today in sectarian violence, which is very interesting. The quote goes as, "Truth, exclusive devotion to non-violence, and cow protection are the chief points of Hinduism. One who neglects them is no more a Hindu." Now, this was said by Mahatma Gandhi, and this is very conveniently used by Gaurakshaks. Now, Gaurakshaks, why am I talking specifically about them? Because this has been, this particular activity of the Gaurakshaks in attacking Muslim cattle traders has been a very obvious form of sectarian violence, other than the usual communal riots or what happened in Delhi in February 2020. These lynchings, because of these Gaurakshak lynchings, actually created a lot of fear psychosis, especially in the Muslim community. And they find the justification in this one saying by Mahatma Gandhi, conveniently ignoring the exclusive devotion to non-violence. Why am I bringing this up? This is to show you just how a person can justify, a group can justify their actions by talking, taking something out of context. Even Nirmala Sitharaman, finance minister, had said that Gaurakshaks were always part of the freedom struggle in India. It is partly true, but in a very distorted way. If you look at the history of this, in 1881, we had the first recorded movement of the Gaurakshaks with the support of the Arya Samaj. They built up, mobilized public opinion. They set up Gaurakshak societies, and they had petitions for ban on cow slaughter. As this momentum grew in the 1890s, this created a conflict with the Muslims, and there was actually a communal clash in Bombay in 1893. And then in 1919, when we had the Khilafat movement, there was a sort of understanding between the Muslim leaders and the leaders of this cow protection movement, that if you support us in the Khilafat movement, we will in turn support the ban on cow slaughter. So this was an understood agreement which happened at that point. Let's go post-independence. 1949, ban on cow slaughter officially entered the Indian Constitution as a directive principle of state policy. Directive principle is only an advisory, it's a guideline. Bihar, UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, under Congress rule, actually passed laws banning cow slaughter. Then in 1966, another interesting event happened. They wanted people from this movement demanded a nationwide ban on cow slaughter, but they didn't have a proper legal backing. So the mob actually attacked Parliament, and there was lathi charge and firing, and 8 people were killed. Why am I talking so much about Gaurakshaks? Because this is the first thing that happened 2014 onwards. This is the one thing that struck terror. If you look at the case of Pehlu Khan, who was lynched in, I think that was, April 2017, 55-year-old dairy farmer, soft-spoken man, but he was killed. What was the actual reason behind his killing? That he refused to pay the exaggerated transportation cost of the cattle. That was the main reason. If you look at the economics behind this, this is, if you look, okay, before we go to the economics behind this, look at the psychology of people who indulge in sectarian violence. I equate them to terrorists. These are homegrown terrorists. Sectarian violence takes place normally when there is either foreign intervention or there is an authoritarian regime which encourages sectarian violence to deflect people's attention from other more important issues, as which we can see in our country today. Nobody is talking about rising price of petrol. Nobody is talking about rising price of essential commodities. People are struggling to make ends meet. The COVID situation comes back again and again, and we're never prepared for it. People die, standing in long lines. But what is the narrative in our country today? The narrative in our country today is Hindu, Muslim, otherwise Sikhs are Khalistanis, Christians are converting people, and this is typical of an authoritarian regime. So now, if you look at the psychology of the people who are involved in this kind of thing, it is nothing different from a terrorist. These are all normal people. These are all normal people who have an eye for detailed planning and timely execution. I will come to that with an example of how the Gaurakshaks work. Okay, so this is one factor. Then the other thing is they dehumanize their targets. As you know very well, this has been going on, especially with the Muslim community. If you look at the way the Muslim community has been, the kind of things that are coming up in our media, whether it is social media or even mainstream media. You want to say something about a terrorist, you show someone dressed as a Muslim. Or our Bollywood films. Take the example of Padmavati. How was Alauddin Khilji? If you look at the way he was dressed and the way he came across, he was dressed as a barbarian. He was practically ripping off uncooked meat. Actually, Alauddin Khilji is a person who stopped the Mongol invasion of India. He's a person who actually cracked down on the traders who were involved in unfair practices, unfair pricing. And he brought about a standard way of pricing of essential commodities. All that is overlooked. The idea of demonizing him is you're demonizing the entire community. So one is they demonize the targets. The other thing is they portray themselves as liberators, freedom fighters. They're fighting for a cause. They're saving a constituent. They're saving people by their certain actions. So this is how they present themselves. And that's exactly what those indulging in sectarian violence are doing today. Or if you talk about the Gaurakshaks, then what is the economics behind this? I will take specifically the Gaurakshak, the economics behind the whole thing. The cattle trader is stopped. His cattle is seized by the police. The police send the cattle to the Gaushala or the cow shelter. Then that poor cattle trader has to run around between the police station, the courts. He has to show his municipal certification. He has to show an NOC. He has to show that he's a legal owner of this cattle. How did he purchase it? All this takes some time. Not only does it take time, it takes money, and he also has to bribe people in this. This is an understood thing. In fact, when they move from one check post to the other, the information is given that he's moving, stop him. Okay. Once he has done all this and he gets it from the court that yes, he can get back his cattle from the Gaushala. When he goes to the Gaushala, the cow shelter, they demand so much per animal per day. So that is good. This is, you're not only being a savior of the cow, you're also making money out of this. In fact, there was a demonstration in Karnataka some time back where some farmers went and demonstrated again in front of the deputy commissioner's office because they got the court order to get their cattle back from the cow shelter, and they had to pay only rupees 50 per animal per day. But they were asked to pay something like 1.7 lakhs. So these 6 farmers actually protested against it. Sometimes they charge something like 2,000 rupees per animal per day. So, this is something which is very convenient. You are indulging in hatred, you're portraying yourself as a liberator, and you're also making money out of this. Now, only 10% of these so-called rescued cattle actually stay in the cow shelter. If for some reason the cattle trader is not able to get back his cattle, the cattle is left at the cow shelter, only 10% remain with the cow shelter. The remaining go back into the market. They're sold in the market or they go to the slaughterhouse. So there is really no protection taking place over here. Why am I talking so much about this whole thing? This is just to get an insight into the way these people work, take advantage of the system. Apart from the psychology and the whole way this thing works, we very well know that the RSS models itself very strongly along the lines of the Nazi, on the Nazi model. Now, if you look at the Nazi model, they mainly targeted children and young adults, because children and young adults are the ones who are susceptible to outside influence. So in Nazi Germany, you had compulsory school attendance. Apart from that, at the age of 10, you joined something called the Young Folk. The Young Folk, you were there for 4 years. From there, you went on to the Hitler Youth, where you were there for another 4 years. Now, the Hitler Youth handbook, 45 pages out of 105 pages is devoted to racial ideology, racial superiority. See, all sectarianism, as you know, has got to do with religion, race, ethnicity. Then after the Hitler Youth, if they felt that some youngster was still not totally a Nazi, they would send them for labor service for another 6 or 7 months. From there, you go to the armed forces. By then, you are a total killing machine. So the crux, the main strength of Hitler's Germany were the Hitler Youth and the League of German Girls. You see, they worked both on girls and boys. And this is precisely the same model that is being followed by RSS. Now they have Sunday classes to teach dharma and patriotism for children across 5,000 locations. You have RSS officer training camps for people between 15 to 25 years. And even people come from abroad, like, Uganda and all that. They come here, they take the training so that they can go back to their countries, and they have RSS affiliates there. They impart the same kind of training. And in India, we have about 80 million tribals. In that, there is a major RSS program called the Vanvasi Kalyan Ashram, where they indoctrinate the tribal people with this Hindutva ideology. That is why you very often find that now in pogroms against Muslims or Christians, the tribal people are used as foot soldiers. Now, what is this impact also on women? You target the women of a community, the so-called the dehumanized community. Now, we've had 2 examples recently of the Sulli app, 6-7 months last year, where police complaints were filed, but no action was taken. Then now you have the Bully Buy app, where Muslim women are being auctioned, being sold. See, so when you are saying that you're selling Muslim women, you're auctioning Muslim women, what are you doing? Basically, you're dehumanizing the entire community. This is like the days of slave trade when, when actually African slaves were put up. They were put up for sale. People come and look at them. This is the same kind of humiliation that they're trying to inflict on the Muslim community. And definitely any fallout of any kind of violence will definitely hit women and children. Women, first of all, are susceptible to two kinds of violence. One is at the hands of individual males or male-dominated institutions. And mostly law enforcement agencies, any kind of government custodial agencies, public, these are all male-dominated agencies. Women have their own issues with violence in private and public settings where they work, and any kind of armed conflict, and also areas where there are displaced people or refugees. And a sectarian violence is eventually going to lead to that, displaced persons. If this goes uncontrolled, there will be some kind of backlash, there is going to be an armed conflict, or there will also be so many displaced people. In that, in particular, apart from the kind of things that happen with displaced people like illness and starvation, you also have a lot of sexual violence, and women are generally bear the brunt of this. So where are we heading? This is a little scary, because if you look at things that went out of control, take Rwanda, for example, in the 90s, where there was this huge genocide of the Hutsis. The most you would normally associate, I'll give you an example. You would normally associate the church or priest, Christian priest, with peace. There is an example of a Father Saromba. He invited the Hutsis into the church, saying that you will get sanctuary. From time immemorial, in history shows you, in European countries, anywhere, wherever there's been a conflict, if somebody wanted to take sanctuary or refuge, they would run into a church. Once they run into a church, you do not touch them, you do not kill them. So the Hutsis were invited into this church, and what this Father Saromba did is, he ordered that the church be bulldozed. So all those people were bulldozed, and those who did not die in that bulldozing were killed by their rivals. So when once sectarian violence flares out of control like this, you have seen it in Myanmar, you have seen it in Sri Lanka, where Buddhist monks were leading from the front, or any other country where it is a majority community. If this is not controlled, here also we've had hate speeches in Haridwar. Who did it? These were all people in saffron robes who called for the extermination of the Muslims.
Hello, madam, your voice is not coming.
How long has it not been coming?
3-4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's okay now.
Right. So anyhow, what I was trying to say is that if sectarianism, it flares, I gave the example of Rwanda, where a Father Saromba, he's a Catholic priest. He called in the Hutsis who were facing extermination into the church, saying that they can have sanctuary over there. And then he asked for the church to be bulldozed. So these people were bulldozed and killed. And those who were not killed were finished by the rival group. So since sectarianism is closely linked to religion, race, and ethnicity, if this spirals out of control, as you have seen in Myanmar and in Sri Lanka, where Buddhist monks led the call for extermination of the minority communities over there, we are reaching a point where not only is there going to be violence, backlash, displaced people, this is our entire country is being shaken up from within. Forget dealing any enemy from outside. We as a country, we are just going to be, it's going to be a huge explosion from inside. What do we do what do we do as responsible citizens? What do we do what can we do in our small limited way? As you have seen, there's been a lot of brainwashing, and unfortunately, we liberal people, we secular people, we didn't realize what was happening all these decades, whereas the RSS, the Hindutva forces have been working for a good 95 years, nearly 100 years. They're close to achieving their objectives. What do? How can we reach out to people? Can we network with people from other communities? We need to network with people from other communities. How do we network? How do we send a message across? Today, education is under their control. Saffronization of education is happening. They're brainwashing young children. You can see so many videos coming out of young boys and girls coming out, and so much of hatred spewing out of them. And they truly believe that they're being patriotic when they do this. So what can we do? Can we reach out to other communities? How do we put across our point of view? I think what we need to do is, since people do not read much nowadays, and reading in any case is confined to a small segment of society. Long lectures do not help. Can we use social media? Because the mainstream media is totally unfriendly to people like us. I think we need to use the social media in a very constructive manner and send a message across to people. And at a personal level, start within your mohalla, within your community, reaching out not only to your community, to people from other communities. Because any of these kind of things, whenever a mob attacks, if a mohalla stands together, they're able to thwart such attempts. So I think we all should start, not wait for someone else to start something from the top. We need to start working from our end. And I think one is our personal outreach to people, and start using social media, evolve a strategy wherein we can get a message across. I think that's it. That's what I had to say mainly, Mr. Ejaz.
Well, thank you, Madam Sarah Matthews. That was a wonderful and a comprehensive, but as a contrast, it was a microscopic, of course, a micro introspection into the contemporary world, with, of course, with a strong historical context. And I think we have got a good handle in terms of understanding the micro level dynamics of the topic today, what we have on our table. Okay, I think the solutions what you proposed are well in perspective and pragmatic, so that we could take some kind of constructive and a sustainable action and start a movement, so that we could make aware the fellow citizens of what is actually happening and what's the agenda behind that. Okay, that was wonderful. Thank you very much for giving us this wonderful message. I would want to quickly move forward towards our next speaker, Professor Muhammad Salim. But before that, I would like to inform you all that we had Professor Rampunyani Garu on the speakers list, but somehow it happened that he had a personal emergency where he's traveling right now, so he couldn't join us. So we will try to have him in another session next time, hopefully. So I would call upon Mr. Professor Muhammad Salim for his discourse to help us to provide a guideline, overall framework, and what's the direction and what are the corrective actions we need to take, and to understand the overall situation. Professor Muhammad Salim.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Okay. Honorable Justice Chandra Kumar ji, the President FDCA Telangana State, Sister Sarah Matthew, and Brother Sadiq Ahmed, the General Secretary of FDCA Telangana State, and Brother Ejaz, who is convening this webinar, and all the respected participants. brothers and sisters, and my young friends. Good evening to everybody. Peace be upon all of you. Assalamu alaikum. Salam and adab to everyone. First of all, let me congratulate Telangana State FDCA to organize this very important webinar on a very relevant topic today, particularly on the eve of Republic Day. Day after tomorrow, we'll be celebrating our Republic Day. Dear friends, brothers and sisters, Brother Sadiq has introduced and narrated various aspects of this sectarianism leading to the hate crimes and its various aspects. And Sister Sarah very minutely, and she has described this sectarianism as an ideology and the model in Germany's Nazi movement, fascist movement, and of course how the sectarian forces are trying to reach to their agenda. And let me bring out some historical things, as well as let us try to understand a little more the agenda and the way of working of these forces. So it's a very sectarianism, and as a result of sectarianism and sectarian ideology and sectarian movement, the hate crimes, they are a result of that. We should try to understand that it is not a phenomena which has started only after 2014. Of course, there is a remarkable change after 2014, and that remarkable change is that these communal and fascist forces, they got the political power, the countrywide political power at the national level and many of these states. And after they entered into this era after 2014, where they were heading the government and the political power they have reached to, this has suddenly accelerated their movement, and it has given the momentum to their sectarian movement. And this is not an abrupt thing which is happening now, but as rightly pointed out by Sister Sarah, that nearly 100 years back, they planned and they founded this movement, and since then they are working hard to reach to their target or their destination. Of course, nearly 100 years are going to complete. In 1925, they formed an organization which has now gain political power as well in our country. Of course, this is a purely fascist and of course a communal movement. Of course, they are trying to present it in a very beautiful cover of cultural nationalism. They are trying to convince people that they are going for a cultural nationalism. So this beautiful package, they are trying to mislead people. And up to some extent, they have been successful in their agenda. Before partition also, very close to the partition, we had communal riots throughout the country, in various parts of the country. This was part of this agenda. Then I would dare to say that division of country also was a conspiracy, and it was also a part of this agenda, so that these forces could make this country according to their plan or their dream. And that is why a partition was necessary for them, and partition based on communal lines. These forces, they thought at the time of partition that their agenda of making this country dominated by a particular culture and religion would be completed by partition, and they thought that all Muslims will migrate to the other country, or they will be targeted, and those who will remain here, they'll be so terrified and they'll be so much afraid and feared that they will lose their identity. They will not assert their identity, and they'll readily agree to become a second-class citizen of this country, and they'll surrender to become subordinate to so-called majority, what these people they call. But fortunately, this did not happen. And of course, in India, we decided to become a secular country and to run this country based on the constitution. And we have a very good and very strong constitution. And our forefathers and those who framed this constitution, they had thought well, and they thought that what kind of constitution can make this country strong and would lead on the path of progress and prosperity. So this beautiful constitution, in which the constitutional values like equality, freedom, liberty, and fraternity, these values were the basic values which are the foundation of this country. But you know that these fascist and communal forces, they have always been feeling that this constitution is a hurdle in the way of their agenda. These constitutional values, which says that every citizen is equal, every citizen has a right to justice, every citizen has freedom of choice. And all the citizens of this country should have a fraternity, a mutual trust and love. And it were these values which allowed us to get this independence and freedom. India was a diverse country earlier also, and India had different religions, different identities, different cultures, languages, regions, ethnicities. But this constitution has united us, and despite of all these diversities and our different identities, we fought together the freedom movement, we struggled, and we achieved the freedom, maintaining our identities and maintaining our identities as well as trusting each other and considering everyone as equal. And now also, we can save this country only on those lines. This country can be saved only when we are united, and these values of Constitution of equality, liberty, and freedom, justice, and fraternity, when these values are strongly practiced, then only we can save this country and we can lead this country to the path of progress and prosperity. You know, just after the independence, in 1948, 30th January 1948, it was not even 1 year after independence, Mahatma Gandhi was murdered. His the Shahid Divas, or his 30th January is very close after 4 days of our Republic Day. This was not a murder of a person. This was the attack on this country. This was the attack on the democracy of this country. This was the attack on the constitution of this country. This was the attack on the ideology of considering everyone equal. This was an attack on the ideology of strengthening mutual trust and fraternity amongst ourselves. So this was not a murder of a person, but it showed that it was the first target after independence. The first target of these fascist communal forces was Mahatma Gandhi, who stood for equality, who stood for communal harmony, who stood for fraternity, and who stood for justice. So we can see that these forces, from the very beginning, they knew that what are various hurdles in their way. So this was one manifestation, the first manifestation after independence, the murder of Mahatma Gandhi, that how these communal forces are going to lead this country. But of course, it took them almost 70 years to come to grab the political power. And in between, we can see that various manifestations, thousands of communal riots which have taken place. It's a very long list, you cannot even mention them. Demolition of Babri Mosque in 1992, even anti-Sikh riots in 1984, the burning of gram stains in Orissa, attacks on various churches, attacks on our Christian brothers and sisters, the massacre of Nelly in Assam, 2002 Gujarat massacre, and then later on other small communal rights. And then it started dehumanizing or demonizing Muslim community, particularly in the name of terrorism, in the name of and try to create a misconception that Islam and Muslims are connected to terrorism. So all these you can understand that this agenda is keeping on since 1925. The modes have been changes, the modes have been communal rights, modes have been demonizing a community by connecting them to terrorism, and as our sister said, dehumanizing them. And now the later new version is the hate mongering, the spreading of hate, and then which turns, as a result of that, you can find out that mob lynching and various other such hate crimes which are continuously being on rise. So this is one of the very important basic requirement of this fascist movement is that they require an enemy. They have to fabricate a false enemy. And that's what they are trying to do for last 100 years. That particularly the largest minority, Muslims, they have identified this to make and fabricate this as an enemy. And of course, to do that, you require false propaganda. You require the false and anti-Islam and anti-Muslim propaganda for that. And this has been continuously being done. And of course, now we have reached to a situation where these communal fascist forces have gained power, political power. Of course, any government, we have democracy and we have democratically elected government, of course. And it is the duty of the government to implement this constitution and strengthen these constitutional values. But you can understand the situation has reversed. Instead of strengthening constitutional values, now the people in power, they are patronizing this kind of mentality and this kind of movement. Those who are spreading hate and those who are indulging hate crimes, they are so emboldened and they feel that nothing would happen to them. No law can catch them and they cannot be punished. They know that whatever they do, something will be done, but they are being emboldened. This is because they understand that the political power or the political forces or the government in power, they are actually patronizing these elements. And this is a very, very serious situation. So now, let me conclude, come to the conclusion by saying that, of course, these people are trying hard. And of course, they have done a lot of damage in these 7-8 years. But still we feel that a large number of people, a majority of people in our country are still peace-loving. They are still for justice, but they are silent. So our duty is to create an awareness among them. A huge majority, they are still in minority. These communal fascist forces, they are still in minority, I feel. Though being in power, but still in the society, they are still in minority. And a large majority is not with them ideologically. Therefore, it is our duty to reach to the people through various means. And we should have social interaction. And we should try to have dialogue. We should try to have communication between various groups, communities. And of course, the social activists, which are there, of course, there are different backgrounds, different ideologies, but such social activists who agree on these things, they should come together and they should try to fight these trends which are very dangerous for our country. And of course, we should keep on trying to remind the government their duties, because they are bound to rule, or they are bound to run this country by the constitution. Of course, we know that they have their own agenda, but it is our duty in democracy that every citizen should be aware, and every citizen should feel its duty that the government should always be cautioned that what you are doing is not correct. You are bound to follow this constitution. And of course, we have our legal setup. And of course, judiciary is there. So wherever it is required, we should take help of that. And we should try to take that legal course against such groups and such people who are trying to damage the social fabric of this country. And of course, the people or the organizations like FDCA and people associated with them, it is our duty to create an environment in this country and to create an awareness that what kind of danger we are heading towards. It's a threat to our very existence of this country. And of course, I would like to say that various religious people or religious organizations, there are large number of religious people or religious leaders which do not subscribe to their ideology, which do not subscribe to their idea of India. And they are for the dignity of and equality of human being. And they are the true representatives of their religion. So they should come out and they should say they should create an awareness in the Indian society that the kind of perception they are giving about the religion of the majority community, that perception is wrong. The religion is not like that which these people are representing. So it is the duty of religious people as well to come out and, of course, create an awareness in the Indian society that this kind of misinterpretation or misuse of name of religion or the symbols of religion to create hatred or to divide this society. So I think it is duty of we all, and we should not be disappointed. And at least I'm not disappointed. There's a lot of hope, and we know that, as I mentioned, a huge number of people and majority of people are against this kind of sectarian ideology, or this kind of hate mongering, or this they do not want the kind of India which these people, these communal fascist forces, these people are trying to make. And we should try to create an awareness that they are doing a great harm to this country, and we should not allow them to lead our country on the way of fascism, as the example of Germany is before us. That what happened to Germany, and what happened to that leader who led Germany on that path. The Germany and of course the leader, they both suffered, and I think we should not allow these forces to lead our country on that path. I'm again thankful to the organizers, particularly FDCA Telangana State Unit, for organizing this very timely and relevant webinar. And of course, I'm sure that this will help us in creating an awareness, and of course remind us our duties to save this country from this path of sectarianism and hatred. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Professor Muhammad Salim Sahab. I think that was a very comprehensive, with a historical context and a lot of historical events which demonize the country and the kind of damage we have already faced. And of course, there's a lot of hope again. We all agree with that statement, and we all have the responsibility to move forward with a positive agenda and to see how best we can support our country and its social fabric. Thank you very much. And with this, let's move forward towards our honorable presidential speaker, Mr. Justice Chandra Kumar. He is the president for FDCA Telangana. So, Mr. Justice Chandra Kumar, we welcome you to go forward with your presidential message, please.
So thank you, Mr. Izaz. We have heard Professor Muhammad Salim, Sister Sarah Matthews, and Sadiq Ahmed Saab. See, their speeches were educative, informative, elaborate, and they have discussed several issues. And it's not necessary to repeat what they have already spoken. See, ours is a country which has great heritage and great culture. This is a country where people belonging to different faiths have been living together since centuries. And you can find the fraternity, brotherhood, understanding between them, more particularly in villages and rural areas. This is a country which has given birth to Kabir, Shirdi Sai Baba, and several other great saints, spiritual leaders. No real spiritual leader has spoken anything against any religion.
no spiritual leader in this country. And they have been preaching equality, equal opportunities, no discrimination, non-violence. In fact, if we study the history of this country from the beginning, from the very beginning, without any partiality, without any glasses, colored glasses, freely, then we will know certain facts. In fact, the cows were sacrificed in this country in the name of Ignas. And when even it became a problem to the agriculturists, inhuman sacrifices, which was badly affecting even agricultural operations. It is Gautama Buddha, Lord Buddha, who came against this sacrifice of cows in the Ignas. Who were sacrificing? Who were doing Ignas? What was their ideology? But it is Lord Buddha who had preached the public that the non-violence should be the way of life. He has treated the people of all communities, all castes equal. He has not only preached non-violence, but also the way of life. And subsequently, this is the country where we have seen Sufi saints had great effect on the Indian people. The true love towards God, true understanding of God, the spiritual outlook, all these things were preached by them. And there are certain spiritual leaders in this country whose particulars of birth are not even known. They never declared. That is Kabir and Shirdi Sai Baba. Nobody knows from which religion they have come, what is their caste, who are their parents, but they have preached love, they have preached fraternity, they have preached non-violence, they have preached how a person should develop his character. And what is real devotion? That is most important thing. And nowadays, this sectarian outlook people, they have been saying that Shirdi Sai Baba's father was a Muslim. Shirdi Sai Baba is a Muslim. The British government who have entrusted the matter to the intelligence department in 1911, the Deputy Inspector General of Intelligence has given a report in 1911 that their investigation revealed that they cannot say to which religion Shirdi Sai Baba belonged. But now, after 1916-17, in recent years, attacks are being made against Shirdi Sai Baba in social media. that he is a Muslim and that Hindus should not worship him. If you study the history of Shirdi Sai Baba, it is a learned Brahmins, Kaka Sahib Dikshit, Dabolkar, Kaparde, Bibi Narasimha Swami, Swami Sharananda, all are Brahmins, well-educated Brahmins, great personalities. They have identified Shirdi Sai Baba. They have written about Shirdi Sai Baba. Let the people know what they have written. And as far as today's issues are concerned, we still feel that majority of Indian people, they have secular outlook and peace-loving. The main ideology, program of these communal forces appears to be two things mainly. They are in power since 2014. They are not able to solve any problems for the people. Recently, we have seen the agitation of the farmers. The demands of the farmers are not yet met. Still, lakhs of farmers have been committing suicide in this country. There is huge unemployment problem. Prices are rising. Gas cylinder price, petrol price, diesel price, whatnot, everything. Common man is now understanding that whatever promises they have made in 2014, they are futile and nothing but cheating. But still they want to again come to power without solving any of the problems of the people, or rather enhancing the problems of the people. See, by privatizing public sector, lakhs of people are being unemployed. So suffering is there. People's problems are not being solved by the present set of government, but still they want to come to power. They want to come to power by instigating the people in the name of religion. They want to come to people by creating communal violence in the country, by creating hatred against Muslims, Christians, or other minority people. This is their main objective. The main objective is that they should again come to power, retain power, and develop this Hindu communalism, Hindu chauvinism. Therefore, they are polluting the minds of the people. Of course, since 1925 onwards, they have been doing the same acts. And since Mahatma Gandhi was against their philosophy, their ideology, and their program, and he was preaching communal harmony, equal rights to Muslims and every other religious people. Since Mahatma Gandhi was coming in their way in achieving their goals, they made him a scapegoat, they killed him. two objectives, as I have just told you. One objective is to come to power again. Second objective is by diverting the minds of the people from the real problems which they are facing. This is the main objective. And of course, after we got independence in 1947, it is Baba Saheb Ambedkar who became the chairman of the Constitution Assembly. A wonderful constitution, a very good constitution, a constitution which has done justice to all people, to the people of all faiths, all communities, has been given to us. And see, the Supreme Court held that the basic features of the Constitution is supremacy of the Constitution, Republican and democratic form of government, secular character of the Constitution. Secular character of the Constitution has been held as a basic feature of the Constitution. And separation of powers between legislature, executive, and the judiciary. Then federal character of the Constitution. These are the basic features of the Constitution. It was held in Keshavananda Bharati's case. In 1973. So therefore, those who are in power in the federal government or the state government, they have taken oath on Constitution. They had taken an oath that they will protect the Constitution, abide the Constitution, implement the Constitution. And the Constitution says, our Constitution says that even the preamble itself we have said, we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. So, those who have taken oath while becoming a parliament member or a member of assembly or as a central minister, prime minister, president of India, it is their duty to abide by the Constitution. And it is their duty to respect the values of the Constitution and the main philosophy, basic features of the Constitution, that is secularism, secular ideology. Of course, we, the Indian people, it is our experience that whenever any party which is in power, whenever they violate Constitution, whenever they violate the fundamental rights of the people, or whenever the human rights are violated, attacks are made, innocent people are killed, the people never voted for such forces. The people of this country never tolerated them. In 1975, Srimati Indira Gandhi, she imposed emergency in this country. There was no freedom of press. All opposition party leaders were arrested and sent to jail. No public meetings. No processions. No protest. But people's rights were violated. Several innocent persons were forcibly operated. Family planning operations were done. And you see what happened? In 1977, all opposition party leaders were in jail. Just they were released and they came out, they formed a party and fought elections. And ultimately people taught a good lesson to Srimati Indira Gandhi and her, all the ministers of the cabinet. So my point, what I want to say is that whenever the constitution has been violated, or whenever the basic philosophy of the constitution is not respected, whenever some forces try to use force, undemocratic methods, illegal methods, or communal hatred, Indian people, common people, they never tolerate such forces. So therefore, it is our culture, it is our tradition that we value secularism, we respect secular values, and we are for fraternity. Of course, what is to be done is that the secular forces are not so strong. Therefore, what has to be done is that the unity of secular forces is the need of the hour. They must have a common program, a common vision, common goal. And these secular ideas have to be spread in the society, maybe by organizing cultural programs, or maybe by short films, or maybe by mushaira or kavisa mellam, whatever different programs. The brotherhood, fraternity, communal harmony. And what is religion? Real spiritual path. Even the religious leaders, several religious leaders have been for secularism. So their ideas have to be, the people have to be educated, common man has to be educated, and unity in action is also required. Whenever there is any attack on any person, the locality people, as suggested by some of the speakers, they must come out in a unity. If 100 people, 200 people gather, what is that 10, 12 people or 100 people Gundas can do? So unity of the people, educating youngsters, uniting all secular forces is a need of the hour. And we hope and trust that the Indian tradition and culture will never allow the communal forces to destroy the unity of the people of this country. So thank you very much.
పరిస్థితిని ఎప్పటికప్పుడు తెలుసుకుంటూనే ఉన్నారు. మంత్రులు ఎమ్మెల్యేల పనితీరును అంచనా వేస్తున్నారు. విమర్శలు ఎదుర్కొంటున్న మంత్రులు ఎమ్మెల్యేల వివాదాస్పద వైఖరి విపక్షాలకు అనుకూలంగా మారుతుంది.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Justice Chandra Kumar Garu, for that wonderful and a introspective message in terms of the constitutional values and the rights and duties of the citizens, what we need to exercise to actually implement those constitutional values. Okay, I think today's session is almost about to close with all our honorable speakers with wonderful messages across the board, and we have been trying to understand the various perspectives, whether it be from a political, socio or economic perspectives, or from a historical standpoint, and even a macro and a micro analysis of the topic today on hand, sectarianism inducing hate crimes. So I think that was a wonderful evening and a great message from all the panel members across. And we hope to have such programs, such discussions, and such initiatives on various occasions with larger scale of audience going forward. So lastly, I take this opportunity from FDCA Telangana platform to thank Mr. Sadiq Ahmed, General Secretary, FDCA Telangana, Madam Sarah Matthews, Professor Muhammad Salim, and Justice Chandra Kumar, FDCA President Telangana. Thank you very much for giving us your valuable time and your message. Thanks for the great evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Correct.